Hey there, it's Christian from 7 Gaming Network, and I'm here with a continuation of our Star Wars Destiny Deck Building 101 series. Now, today what I'm going to do is go through what I call tweaking your deck, with the understanding being that if you've watched the other videos, you've made a deck that had a good overall strategy that you built towards, and then you selected a bunch of cards that worked towards that strategy. You had to cut a few down, hopefully get down to your 30, and by now I'm hoping you should have played a few games with it. And once you've played a few games with it, you're probably starting to feel like you could make some changes to it. So this is where this process that I'm about to show you comes in. Now what you can see up here on the screen is a deck, a much earlier iteration of a deck that I called the Jabbalator. Jabba Bala Night Sister, crap name I know, but there you go. And this is just to show you how I lay my deck out and then start assessing it. And I have a number of things that I sort of work my way through. So I'd suggest you set it up like this, just because it's easy to see everything. Now, obviously I'm on the computer, I'm on Tabletop Simulator, but you could easily do this, on your dining room table with your cards. But look at the top here, I've put my characters out, and then I put the battlefield next to it, and then I actually have these set up in a particular order. So what I like to do is to put my main sort of damage output style cards, upgrades, right underneath the characters, and then I'll follow up with a line of more of my defensive or control-y type upgrades, and then I tend to have my utility upgrades. And then on the right hand side I put my supports, and then on the left I put my events. And I would normally split these up into sort of damage output style ones at the top, and then having the manipulation and removal cards sort of middle and bottom. And then if anything really unusual, I'll put that down here. So I lay it all out with a very clear structure, so that each time I do this, I can very quickly assess. First of all, I look at the cards in the different categories. Have I got lots all in one category? And is there an area of cards that I'm really missing any of? Now, granted, some decks you're not going to have many cards for a particular category. So, for instance, if you're looking here, if I was playing a really heavy aggro deck where I wasn't really trying to do much defensive, taking shields, controlling dice, well then that line's going to be probably pretty empty, and I'm probably going to have a lot more of this going on. Some decks, of course, just don't run any support, so that's fair enough. So, but what this allows you to do is very quickly have a look over. Well, how have I built my deck? Are there any gaps? Have I got loads in one area, or have I got any area where I just haven't got any cards at all? And then you can assess that. Is that right? You may look and think, crikey, I've got hardly any dice manipulation or removal. And you'll probably have experienced, if you've played a couple of games with your deck build, oh yeah, my opponent can just do whatever they like, and I'm really struggling to interrupt that. So that's generally the first thing that I'll look at. Now the second thing that I will look at then is the costs. So it's really easy for me then again to just look across the cost of all these cards. So for instance, if we're looking at my upgrades here, we're looking at 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1 and 0. So you can see that this is not a very expensive amount of resources required in this deck to get these upgrades out. Now I've got another 3 in terms of black market, so that's another more expensive card. Everything else though, 0s and 1s. So that helps me to know that, actually I'm running pretty light on this deck. Again, that's helpful information, because if you were to look over this and you were to see lots of 3s, 4s and higher, well then you're going to start thinking, oh, hold on a sec, have I gone a bit resource heavy here? Now that may be fair enough if you've got some big chunky supports or some big expensive upgrades, but I would suggest you probably need to make sure that your utility upgrades and the kind of cards that are going to be giving you resources, your logistics and all that sort of thing, you're going to need to make sure that there's quite a lot of those. So you can see how this impacts then how you're assessing all of these cards that you've put into your deck. Now the next thing to just have a quick look at, especially after you've played a few games, is the colours and how the colours are working out. So for instance, you might end up having some cards in like Cunning, which is yellow character only. How are your spotter blue character to play this card type cards going, or any of your colour specific cards? And it may be at this point that you realise, do you know what, I've got 4 need to have a yellow character in play, and I'm running one copy of one Tusken Raider. Well, if that Tusken Raider goes, you're going to really struggle to play those cards, and let's face it, a Tusken Raider is pretty easy to get rid of from your team. So just have a look at your colours. I'm playing Fight Dirty, which is basically remove any number of yellow dice. So I need to look at my characters and look at my upgrades and say, well, am I going to have many yellow dice here? Well, in this deck, obviously I've got On the Hunt, I've got Jetpack, I've got Cunnings, I've got the character dice, and I could even have black markets as well. So yeah, I go, yeah, that's fine. My Fight Dirty is going to work fine, because I can see at a glance I've got enough yellow dice being generated for that, or whatever card it is that you're looking at. So this is the time to start filtering out maybe some of those coloured cards that you're finding difficult to play, and that can end up just being, I'll just use this as a discard, which is fine. We don't want to be doing that very much. Now, another thing that's a good point to start looking at here now is what we call synergies. So if you've played a couple of games, you might have had a couple of instances where you thought, wow, that was a really cool combo, or how that card worked with that card, I hadn't realised that would be so good. You might not have clocked that something like Imperial, a battlefield like the one where you can return a card to your hand and gain a resource back, and upgrade to your hand and gain a resource back. That works really well with something like a Sith Holocron, because it costs 0 to play it out, and you can take it back at the end of your turn and gain a resource. So it's just identifying those type of synergies. Cunning, resolve a special on another card and play as if it were your card. Well, have I got many other specials? Well, yeah, in this deck, Force Throw, Force Choke, Sith Holocron, Datapad, but there are other specials in the deck that's going to synergize well with. So we like that. So now is a good time to just have a look and see, have I got many synergies? Is there good stuff here? Am I missing out? Have I got any holes? Is anything not synergizing very well? Which kind of leads me on to the next category that I then start assessing my deck in terms of, and that's, am I looking at cards that I've just never played or rarely ever hit the table? So for instance, in this deck, straight away, for me, Black Market, I just haven't played this card hardly at all. It always tends to be a discard for me. If I've got 3 resources, well, I'm probably going to try and hold out for a Force Throw, unless I've got a Sith Holocron in play. But Black Market just hasn't been doing the business for me. So I'd probably consider taking that out, because at this stage I'm hardly ever using it. And after a couple of games, you can start to get a feel for which cards are like, oh, brilliant, I'm so glad I've seen this. I always feel like that when I see Holdout Blaster or Sith Holocron or Force Throw. Okay, those cards need to be in there. And of course, it's a really good point actually. Force Throw, I'm thinking, hey, that's kind of the opposite of Black Market. Every time I see that, I'm like, oh, brilliant, I really want to get hold of that. So guess what? I'm going to put another one of those in, because that's been a fantastic card for me. So I'm going to do that, and I can take one of these take one of these Black Markets out. So now I'm going to have a look at some other cards. I think, well, I'm not really playing those very much, or I always feel like I wish I had another one. Scramble is kind of another one. Now it's not that it's terrible, but I find I always end up using that when I'm sort of back against the wall, and ultimately it doesn't really give me a lot of control. Now, in a deck like this, I actually feel like something like Unpredictable would be another card I'd rather experiment with. I can just see it's another really solid card, so at this stage let's go and get that. So oh, there we go. Oh, I'll see. I'll do that afterwards. But I can then put that Unpredictable in, and that's given me another card to just experiment. It's another slot that I can play with here. So there's a very simple set of rules that I go through as I lay my deck out, as I have a good look through it and start assessing and start tweaking. Because now taking out say 2 copies of Black Market and getting in something like Unpredictable, getting another force throw in there. When you're only playing with 30 cards, guys, it really starts to make a big differences. You change 3 cards, you've just changed 10% of the deck. That's a considerable amount. So I'd be making these couple of little changes here. And if there's any others that I feel I really need to make, unless they're really, really big, fundamental, important ones, there's just a card that's just not working, well, hey, play another game or two with this slightly changed up version, and try and be careful of making really big sweeping changes all in one go. Just change 2 or 3 cards, or even maybe just a couple of play sets of cards, and try it again, see what happens. So hopefully those few little tips will help you to go about starting to tweak your deck after you've played your first few games with it, and you're probably making fairly large changes. You're taking out, as I said, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards at once and putting some others in, and if you go through that process maybe 2, 3, 4 times, you'll start to find a pool of cards that really fits for your strategy of the deck, and you're almost refining, distilling the card selection to find the sort of the most optimal play for you. And one last thing to bear in mind as well, of course, is that it's when you get down to these last few changes that your meta calls can be really important. So if you know that group of players that you're consistently playing with, then your decision over whether to include Scramble over and above Unpredictable, if you've got a meta where people are tending to do lots of squad tactics and get loads of dice out all at once, or maybe in your meta something like Scramble might actually work better. But again, these are those meta cards where you're starting to say, yeah, do you know what, actually that's been fine in my meta, I've used that quite a few times, great, okay. Anyway, so I just want to put a little shout out to the Knights of Ren, a brilliant podcast, one of my favourites. Always look forward to their episodes coming out, and I heartily recommend that if you're serious about building some quality decks, some good fun decks, making good changes to the decks that you're trying to build and put together, then hearing other good players' experience, and Knights of Ren often talk about their sort of competitive tournament type events that they've gone to and matches, and delve into card selection and deck list and so on. They're a really great one to go and check out. As ever, if you want to get hold of me, you can actually find me in the Knights of Ren Discord channel. My online handle on there is Peace Lord, and it'd be great to hear from you. So until next video, keep enjoying Destiny.